In section 4.10, we are going to look at two more postulates for looking at congruent triangles. The first one is angle, side, angle. When we have angle, side, angle, that means we have two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding angles and side of the other triangle. So if we look at this example here, I'm going to label our points again. We have A, B, D, and TRP. If we are given that this angle and this angle are congruent, and angle D and angle P are congruent, and this side here. Right here is a good example of angle, side, angle. So we have our two angles, angle B and angle D, and the side that connects those two angles is the one that matches our other triangle. So this is our included side. It's the side in between that connects those two congruent angles. So just like in side, angle, side, where that angle was in the middle, now our side must be in the middle of our two angles. Okay? So if we were to write our congruency statement here, we would have ABD is congruent to triangle TRP. Oops. And we know that by angle, side, angle. Our other theorem is angle, angle, side. This theorem says that if two angles and a non-included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding angles and non-included side of another, then they are congruent. So in this case, the side is not in between, it is outside. So if we look, we have triangle ABX here and PTS here. We are given that this angle is congruent to this angle, and our sides here are congruent. We can see that we have two angles here, and if we were looking at our included side, that would be side AB, and that is an S. TS. But in this case, it's a non-included side, which is BX. It does not connect our two angles together, and PT. So this is an example of angle, angle, side. When we're going around our triangle, we have an angle, and a side. Okay, so then if we look here, we have triangle ABX would be congruent to triangle A matches S, B matches T, and X matches P. Okay, by angle, angle, side. So these are some of our last theorems with angles and sides, and I want you to notice we've had 4 different theorems. We have side, 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 angle, side. We just learned angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. These are our 4 options when we are talking about congruent triangles. When you are practicing this, if you're looking for one of these theorems, if your theorem spells a bad word, either forwards or backwards, if you're looking at angle, side, side, or side, side, angle, that is not a theorem. If it spells a bad word, you can't use it. So that is a good way to remember these are our 4 theorem options. Okay? Okay, so now we are looking at a few examples and we're trying to figure out which theorem would prove that these triangles are congruent. So I'm going to write all our given information down here and then we will be able to figure it out. So if we know that these are our points, see, it gives us these angles are the same and these angles are the same, and this is our congruent side. So can we tell that these angles or these triangles are congruent? We have an angle here, B and M match, and an angle here, N and C. If we look at that side is not connecting our two angles together. It is not included. So we know that angle side is a theorem that we could use, so that is the postulate that we would use to show they're congruent. So by angle side, we know that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle P, B matches M, C matches N. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2, we have D, C, E, F, H, P. And our given information in this case is this angle matches this angle. These two sides are congruent, and these two sides are congruent. So here we have two sides that are congruent on both triangles, and both of those sides on both triangles come together at our congruent angle. So that means our angle is going to be in the middle of our two sides. We have side, angle, side. And we can say triangle CDE is congruent to triangle H, CD matches P, and F. Okay? Last one. In triangle ABC and DEF, here we go, ABC and DEF, we know that AC equals DF, so we can label that right away. And it's always important right away to label any information that is given to you. It wants to know what else do we need to know to make these congruent by angle, side, angle. So if we look at angle, side, angle, that side is in the middle in between our two angles. So if this congruent side needs to be in between our congruent angles, we need to know that these two angles match up, these two sets of angles. So that would mean that angle A would need to be congruent to angle D, and angle C would need to be congruent to angle F in order for us to use angle, side, angle. Okay, so the bottom here is just a review of all 4 theorems or postulates we can use for our congruent triangles. And remember, if it spells a bad word, you can't use it. So these are our 4 options.